the virus has a 99% survival rate or 98, why even bother getting vaccinated? That it doesn't seem like it should be all that dangerous.
I mean, that is a interesting question, and it's one of what the naysayers use. But tell that to a loved one who watched their loved one die. This is one of the most emotional parts of 29 years of practice that I've had personally, and I think it's because we as physicians felt somewhat helpless with the seriously ill, and particularly the elderly. There was a time at the end of December and through January when we watched people die in the nursing home, probably 70 locally, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do for them. The shortness of breath they had, and they had something that I would call inanition. They just stopped eating and drinking. And some of that we think is because of the change in taste and the change in smell, that people just stopped being hungry because it was almost a meaningless experience for them to eat. And they just stopped, and they looked to me, some of them, like World War II pictures from, and I don't want to offend anybody by saying that, but they were cachectic. They lost weight. They lost hydration. They looked like blank faces, and it was a difficult thing to watch as people died. We've almost had 600,000 die in America alone now. That number is not insignificant. It's more than any time that we can remember from influenza. It challenges only the 1918 Spanish flu. And so to each individual family that lost a loved one, it's very, very significant.
So you make a great point, Kevin. COVID is like no virus we've ever seen in this country. It's not influenza. We know how to treat influenza. We know what to do for our patients, even when they're hospitalized. And people die of influenza in this country every year in the tens and thousands, not the hundreds and thousands that we've seen over the last year from COVID. COVID was actually the third leading cause of death in the state of Ohio last year. And now we have to look at, that's preventable, highly preventable with this tool, the vaccine, okay? We don't want to see COVID being the third leading cause of death anymore. And when you talk about percentages, you mentioned 1 to 2% die, okay? That's 1 to 2 in every 100 people die, okay? We don't have to take that risk. That's when you look at the risk of the numbers, okay, what are the risks of an adverse reaction to the vaccine? 1 in, say, 3 million. I'd rather have the 1 in 3 million risk of an adverse reaction versus a 1 in 100 risk of death. It's break that down to the math, and I'm not a gambling person, but that's not a gamble I'm willing to take.